It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And good morning to the John Fredericks Radio Network, and welcome to our microphones here in our Nashville studio. The great Roger Simon, Academy Award nominated screenwriter, great mystery writer, Substack writer, also my former boss at PJTV when we were both in our teenage years.
Oh, yeah. As opposed to our dotage. Right.
Our dotage, Roger Simon. Roger, we've got 44 days until 47. First thing, I'm praying for his safety as he goes to Paris on Saturday for the grand reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah, I gather he's surrounded by a lot of Secret Service now. They already blew it once, or maybe twice. So
he didn't call me for advice, and I would have told him to stay in Mar-a-Lago. But okay, I know what he's doing. He is asserting American world leadership again.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone already assumes he's president at this point, because the senile nitwit who preceded him is fading fast, but doing bad things as he goes out the door. But that's the way.
Really bad things. By the way, at the bottom of this hour, the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti, will be our exclusive guest.
A great man.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the oral arguments before the Supreme Court on the SB1 transgender case.
Yeah, I mean, they were a license for misogyny.
Yeah.
It was like listening to The View.
That's the best line. I've been using other language to describe some of these justices, particularly Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, and even Kagan.
They'd fit in on The View perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's their next gig.
They should gain some weight first, though.
Boom. Roger, I've been watching yesterday, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon's like 3-year-old son, X, I don't know if he's 3 or 4, he was carrying the kid around on his shoulders, and they were meeting with members of Congress about the Department of Governmental Efficiency. One thing I want to just ask about that, I have a theory about this, because usually important people who are talking about important things in the House of Representatives don't bring their 3-year-old son around.
Not commonly.
However,
it's a symbol. I think with Musk, it's both symbolic, but it is also who he is.
I completely agree with you. It is the symbolic element of it is, I'm worth $350 billion, depending on the day, asterisk. But I'm also a normal person, and I have this wonderful 3-year-old son, one of his 12 kids.
And the Bible has said, be fruitful and multiply, and he does it.
He is doing his best to multiply.
But he's sort of like an Orthodox Jew or something. Yeah. Anyway,
so I want to add, so Elon Musk, to me, he represents the classic American can-do spirit. Let's go to Mars. Let's build a great rocket. Let's build a great electric car.
And one that's been missing for a long time.
A long time.
A revival of it. No. And, and he is an immigrant, a legal immigrant.
Yeah.
And he's showing the way. I mean, you were bringing up, we're going to talk a top. I just bought a Tesla in honor of Musk. Not entirely. But what I like having a nice car, and I've had a Mercedes for about almost 10 years now, and I've had a feeling, although it was driving well, I was going to pay for it now.
It's time. The cars get to a point where it's time.
At a certain point, you say it's time. And so I looked around, and, the most fun thing to buy is a Tesla. I don't subscribe to anthropogenic or man-made global warming. I don't think it's worth a hoot. I think it's just nonsense. In fact, the more you read about it, the more nonsensical it becomes. And the public sort of believes that now. Global warming was not very high on the list of things voted about. On the other hand, the Tesla is really fun and interesting technology. Now, I don't think I'm going to let the car drive itself. I enjoy driving, so I'll stick to that old habit.
Well, from your California days, you like driving around the Ventura Highway with the wind blowing through your hair, right?
Well, I was an early adopter of of a Prius. I bought a Prius, about the second year of Prius, really early, and I liked it for the first 3 to 4 weeks, and then I felt like I was driving a tin can.
What do you like why did you choose to buy a Tesla?
Well, I bought the Model 3, which is the small guy. I don't need a car that's bigger. And I looked around at a price in that price range. And, I'm a former screenwriter, so I had the money to buy a BMW often. And I had a lot of them. And I thought this was a more interesting thing now. And
what's more interesting about it?
Well, first of all, the technology is more
electric.
advanced. Yeah, it's not just the electricity; it's also how you operate the car out of the screen and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that might be a double-edged sword, and maybe I'm made a mistake, because looking at the screen while you're driving, not a good idea. But I don't want to, go on YouTube and watch Michael Patrick Leahy while I'm driving.
Although it's highly recommended that people do that, right? But except for safety concerns.
Right. But I can watch you while I'm stopping for electrical charge.
Now, my son-in-law used to own a Tesla, and it was a fabulous vehicle. Mm-hmm. And he actually sold his Tesla and bought a Mercedes. He went the other way, a classic, like a 1990.
That happens.
He's a big car guy, right?
Yeah.
But the vehicle could accelerate dramatically, and it was a smooth. And what's weird about being in a high performance electric vehicle, as a Tesla is, your whole life you hear the engine start. But there's
evidently you can program in different noises into it. So maybe I'll try to program.
Did you go on
the Lone Ranger?
Roger? Did you go on a test drive with it?
Well, I test drove it, but I test drove it up in Franklin almost during rush hour. So I didn't really get to see the legendary acceleration, although I've ridden in friends' cars. And
now
they're showed off.
How are you going to charge it up? How's that work?
Well, I'm going to put a charger into my house.
How much does a charger cost?
Well, the gizmo that you buy from Tesla costs $420.
Okay.
And then you have to pay for installation. That depends on how friendly and your electrician is.
Who installs it?
An electrician.
Okay, you have to hire. And how much that cost?
A super handy guy could do it himself,
really?
But that ain't me.
You subscribe to this. A man must know his limitations idea. I like that.
In this case, it's easy.
Okay, so how much you're gonna have to charge it up every night?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I
but you want.
I don't drive that much. I mean, I work at home as a writer, and I go out to play tennis.
So when do you get this car?
I'm picking it up tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you come into the program on Friday, you'll be driving your Tesla.
That's right.
Well,
look out below.
Yeah, we should hook it up so that we can broadcast one of our segments from you driving me around in a Tesla. What do you think?
All right.
We do that? Patrick, our intrepid producer, can we figure that out? The technology of it? Look, it's Tesla, right? Yeah. So we could probably I have an idea. We could put some equipment in the Tesla that could make it like a radio studio.
Not hard.
I think that's where we're going to go.
A lot of people do that. Yeah. Also, you can put a camera.
And then we'll interview Elon from there.
That'll be a good idea.
All right.
We know Vivek, but I don't know Elon.
We'll have more when we get back. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. He's Roger Simon.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. Michael Patrick Leahy, broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville. A little cool out there. Brisk today. Roger Simon, all-star panelist, great writer, Academy Award nominated screenwriter, here with us. Roger, something that wasn't on my bingo card was to get to the point where here in 2024, we are on the cusp of a golden age of America. Isn't
very exciting. Very exciting.
It's very exciting. And there was, for a long period of time, decades, you could even trace it back to the 1963 assassination of JFK, America lost its identity and its confidence and its can-do attitude. And it's been at varying levels back and forth. Reagan brought it back some, of course, but then it slid down during this horrible morass of,
There's a bigger opportunity than Reagan right now.
Absolutely a bigger opportunity. And Trump talks about the golden age, and part of the golden age is just sticking to your agenda. Case in point, we just had this Truth on Truth Social by Donald J. Trump about Pete Hegseth this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. He said the following: Pete Hegseth is doing very well. His support is strong and deep, much more so than the fake news would have you believe. He was a great student, Princeton, Harvard educated, with a military state of mind. He will be a fantastic, high-energy Secretary of Defense, one who leads with charisma and skill. Pete is a winner, and there is nothing that can be done to change that! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
That is truly Trumpian. and there are a lot of interesting questions that come out about the Hegseth nomination, which I clearly support. Mm-hmm. And that, one of which is, it raises the old question, to what extent are our private lives important in all of this? And the answer is not a lot, because the private lives of everybody has something weird in it. Yeah. Practically everybody. So there are very few saints out there, and that's why there are only a few saints, and even the saints may not be saints. So so the level of hypocrisy that goes on, and the accusations against Pete Hegseth are pretty comical. And if you just took the mask off the people making them, you'd see a lot. So I think that can be erased. And
I agree.
I mean, except in obvious exceptional cases, then it's not. But that kind of person doesn't usually get nominated. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think is really important in this is the saving of our military. Mm-hmm. An example just came up the other day about how bad our military has been, and that's Afghanistan, and what happened with the role of women in Afghanistan. I don't know. I'm sure you read this, Michael.
I didn't read it. Tell me.
In fact, women have now, by the Taliban, been banned from medical school. In other words, women cannot be doctors in Afghanistan.
Oh, you're talking about the post-debacle
of
the
Afghanistan.
Taliban, which was to be expected, that the rights that women had in Afghanistan before we abandoned them were
gone.
But
they're worse than ever.
Yeah,
worse than ever. There's never, and this is done by the party that claims to be the party for women, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's to tell you how frightening that is. In most of the Afghanistan provinces, male doctors are not allowed. Women are not allowed to be treated by male doctors. Therefore, they have not only are there no female doctors, women can't go to the doctor. I mean, this is beyond anything that was even in the Middle Ages.
So,
and if you trace it back, it's our military and the way we exited.
The debacle. Now, back to the coming golden age of America. I think this might be an example. I haven't seen anything on Trump policy about this, but I would say the following. It would seem to me that the America First standard in military protection is to protect American interest wherever they may be. And to contrast it from what you might call the American empire view of the world, right, which is rapidly going away. Bannon talks about us not having allies in the classic sense, but having protectorates, right? And that was a signature of the American empire. As terrible as that is for the women in Afghanistan right now, I don't see the Trump administration doing as a major theme going into countries like that and making a change.
Oh no! I mean, first of all, it's too late.
It's too late.
but
we should get the Carole King song. Right?
Yeah,
it's too late, baby.
Yeah. But and I think in certain instances we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to Israel to make sure that they are not overrun by Hezbollah and Hamas and Iranians.
But let us be very clear about that. That is the survival of Israel is in the national interest of the United States.
Yeah, it's an ally. It's a great ally.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a protectorate.
Exactly. They are an ally in the sense that you want to have an ally. I'm trying to think right now, if you look at the world, how many countries that say they're allies to the United States in the Biden era have been more the protectorate than allies. Look at NATO.
It's scary to think about it.
Yeah.
All of Western Europe almost feels like that now.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
I mean, and then with Turkey part of NATO, everything is sort of nuts.
And that's totally nuts.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but having said all that, if you look at all of these great appointments that Donald Trump is making, these are people that are not part of the old establishment, are they? These are people who can totally disrupt the administrative state.
Well, listen, I know several of them personally. One of them that I know, Kash Patel, I think may end up being the most important of all appointments because the FBI has been so corrupted.
And the latest on all this is that if you read the tea leaves, now the people are saying that it looks like Kash Patel will be readily confirmed.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Christopher Wray has to hit the road,
right,
and if he doesn't voluntarily resign, he'll be fired on the afternoon of January 20th. 2025, even if some Democrats...
I was fired when Biden came in.
That's right. Tell us about that. Yeah, tell us about that.
It's a very funny incident because 4 days before he was inaugurated, I was appointed to an international board of Radio Free Europe, and and then 4 days later, I was fired from it.
The shortest
we had one meeting on a phone call.
The shortest tenure in the history of that.
I don't know if it's the shortest, but it's up there.
There
were about 4 other people on the committee that was appointed that also had short tenures.
Oh, that is really funny, Roger. Are you up in line for any?
Am I what?
Any position? Are you in line for any positions?
No, not that I know.
I have a question for you, and we talked about this last week. Whether Rick Grinnell, why has he not been nominated?
It's a mystery because he's been such a loyalist to Trump, but also his experience is quite amazing.
And he's been actually continuing to be a loyalist.
Yes,
I've seen him all. He's very.
Yes, he is continuing. I have a suspicion that Trump is going to be using him as his man, his man Friday in a way to do emergency situations throughout the globe.
Special envoy. He named somebody else for the Ukraine-Russia thing.
Yeah, but there'll be lots of interesting situations.
I have a place where, if there's one place where I think he could fit, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And as you know, it's a weird situation. It's the Elizabeth Warren thing, and it's funded by the Federal Reserve. Yeah. The Supreme Court said that would be okay, but in that same decision, they said the president can fire the director. I think the director of that entity will be fired, and I think Rick Grinnell would do a great job there.
Oh, he would, but I think in some ways his skills might be wasted because I think his greatest skills are in international diplomacy.
Sort of Harry Hopkins. FDR's Harry Hopkins?
Yes.
You think?
A similar kind of thing.
Trump. All right.
But we'll see.
When we come back, if all goes well, we will have an exclusive interview with Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti about the oral arguments on the SB 1 case before the Supreme Court.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. In studio, All-Star panelist Roger Simon. On our newsmaker line right now, the great Attorney General of the state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti. Welcome, General Skrmetti.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Roger. Thank you for having me.
Hey, hi.
Well, it's been quite a week for you. The oral argument on SB 1, which was the Tennessee law that prohibits puberty blockers and hormone therapy for minors. The oral arguments on that case were heard. It's famously United States v. Skrmetti. You're a named party in it, General Skrmetti.
Yes.
I did not expect that.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
It is a little weird, but there you were. And you.
Well, it's slightly heroic.
I mean, it is. General Skrmetti, you told us and that the Solicitor General of Tennessee, Matthew Rice, the former minor league baseball player who hit .295 as a catcher for the Tampa Bay Rays before he went off to excellence in legal. You told us he would be great. I listened to that entire argument. You were absolutely right. I thought Matthew Rice just defended the state of Tennessee in an extraordinarily excellent way. Your thoughts on it, General Skrmetti?
He was fantastic. I have friends who have advocated multiple times before the court who have been raving to me about what an exceptional job he did. In tough circumstances, he was hit pretty hard, and he stood his ground. He was extremely articulate and thoughtful. I was really proud. And, of course, a lot of work goes into that. There was a whole team supporting him. I'm proud of that entire team. I thought, you never know what the court is going to do, but I feel absolutely confident that we put the best possible case on in defense of Tennessee's law, and I'm so proud of the team that worked on this case. We did a terrific job for all the people of the state.
I think you did the state of Tennessee proud. And also, so I'm listening to this thing, and it was about 2.5 hours. We don't get to our side of it. They had the Solicitor General for the Biden administration there, and then the ACLU attorney. Both were the plaintiffs in the case, and then didn't get to us until about 1 minute and 40 seconds into it. About a minute and a half of Matthew Rice making the case. The first question came from Justice Thomas, for whom he clerked, and about a minute and a half into his answer, boom, a very aggressive questioning that came from Sotomayor, and then jumping in on it. And I thought the Matthew Rice handled it extraordinarily well and just totally deflected it. You're sitting there. Where were you when this was all happening?
So I was probably about 8 feet, maybe 10 feet from Justice Barrett and Justice Gorsuch, sitting at the end of our table. We had Matt Rice toward the middle, then Whitney Hermendorfer, the head of strategic litigation, and Stephen Griffin, who is the senior lawyer in strategic litigation, who was the trial attorney for a lot of the work in this case. So I was at the end of our side sitting. It's incredible when you're in the court. You are so close to the justices when you're sitting at that table, closer than you would be in a trial court. It was a little disconcerting.
That's really kind of fascinating. It's kind of fascinating, as I was telling Michael earlier in the show, from the perspective of someone watching it on television as we were, it seemed like we were watching an episode of The View.
Well, particularly some of the questioning from some of the more liberal.
It was so off the idea of what you would think the Supreme Court was like.
Well, you're sitting there, General Skrmetti, and he's giving Matthew Rice, the Solicitor General, is answering the first question very, very ably from Justice Thomas. And then I think it was Sotomayor who jumps in, right? And then just was very aggressive. What are you thinking at that moment when he's being attacked by the Supreme Court Justice?
We thought there would be tough questions coming. This is a very emotional, very significant disagreement. So it wasn't a shock, but it's still pretty jarring. I mean, these are Supreme Court justices. That is the biggest deal. If you go to law school, the hierarchy of your profession, you look up, and at the very, very, very tippy top of the mountain there is the Supreme Court. So for him to have justices just really challenging him very aggressively on these important issues, That's very intimidating, but he was cool as a cucumber. He answered very ably, I thought, and he was able to make our points in a concise and efficient fashion. And there's just going to be some disagreement. I mean, that if there wasn't, the case probably wouldn't be up at the court. But despite the very intimidating circumstances, he was completely unfazed. And I thought he stayed on track and did a really good job engaging with them. I mean, their questions are important to the outcome of the case. They're asking about issues that are going to be explained one way or another in the opinion that the court puts out probably in July. And, I'm so proud of them.
So just looking at it from afar, it was very clear to me that this is me speaking, not you, right? Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and even Justice Kagan.
Yes.
They were out there to basically destroy Matthew Rice. It didn't even seem to me like a legal argument. It seemed like a political Jeremiad is what they were trying to do. And what was very impressive to me, General Scrimetti, is, I mean, the immediate action would be, yeah, well, you too. No. He took it in stride. I don't think he broke a sweat. And he really knocked down every single one of their arguments with logic and common sense. You told me that he was good. And I said, okay, well, of course he's going to say he's good.
It helps to have the truth on your side.
Well, yeah, there you go. He was beyond. It was just an incredible performance. As this tide started to turn, when did you start to feel in his argument that he had asserted the upper hand?
Well, pardon me. Probably the biggest argument is about whether this is sex discrimination or not. And the Bostock case sort of looms over all of this, and the federal government stepped in.
So if you could just for a moment describe the Bostock case. That was the opinion written by Justice Gorsuch that kind of threw a curveball into all this. Describe what that is for our listeners.
So Bostock is a case that looks at Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which deals with employment law. And it said that if you discriminate against somebody because they are transgender, you're discriminating, you're treating them differently than you would somebody of the same sex who is not transgender. And therefore you're discriminating on the basis of sex, and that violates Title VII. And it was an opinion based on a very close reading of the language of the statute. There was language in Bostock saying this is a statutory case that does not, should not be read to apply to other contexts. But since the courts never addressed gender identity anywhere else, all of the lower courts have been trying to understand what Bostock means for broader legal questions. The Biden administration latched onto it to say that in every case you're talking about sex discrimination, it includes gender identity discrimination. And it was the cornerstone of the Civil Rights Division's engagement with this case when they intervened in the Nashville court. And DOJ has been in this ever since. So sex discrimination is a big legal question here. And I think Matt got some very tough questions trying to line up how discrimination law generally works and asking how it was possible that we could say that this didn't fit in the pre-existing boxes that are clearly discrimination under the Constitution. And I thought he did an exceptional job articulating our position. We think we have strong arguments here. And the core of the argument is you're not just treating boys and girls differently. It's not like you hand testosterone to one and not the other. Anytime a kid or anyone is given a drug, they're given a drug for a specific medical purpose. Mm-hmm. And you're looking not just at the sex of the person, but how the drug is going to affect them and what conditions you're treating. And I thought Matt did a fine job of articulating how this wasn't just sex discrimination. It's just medical treatment based on the fact that boys and girls are physiologically different.
It's interesting to me as I'm walking through that. He spent, 2 or 3 months preparing for this, didn't he? I think
it was 4. I mean, he was spending the large majority of his time preparing for that argument.
The key in representing the state of Tennessee is he has to be ready as he's standing there, when he's attacked by the three justices who were attacking him, he's got to process what they say, take all of his information, and then reflect and take down their argument. I didn't even see him taking a breath of time to be able to hit back on those arguments. I was just so impressed with that.
Life is preparation.
Yeah, it was very well done.
Yeah.
We're giving the taxpayers their money's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good line. So I noticed also, it's a little tea leaf reading, right? And as you said, look, the court's going to make its own decision. We'll hear May or June, whenever they decide. But in the land of tea leaf reading, I noticed that there's a little switch. Apparently, Justice Thomas rarely asks questions. Well, he asked the first question of Matt Rice. I guess that would make sense since he was a former clerk. But Justice Gorsuch, who authored that Bostock decision, which is kind of controversial, didn't ask a question. Do you read anything into that?
No. I mean, you never know what an individual justice is thinking. Sitting there, I can tell you it was clear they were all paying very close attention. They were all thinking really hard about these issues, recognizing that not only is this a particularly important question, but whatever they say, since this is the first constitutional case involving gender identity, whatever they say is going to have big ramifications, even if they try to limit those ramifications. Until another case comes up, this is going to be viewed by the lower courts as guidance that they have to follow, and they're going to latch onto it for all sorts of different questions. So, there's nothing wrong with sitting there listening and thinking really hard. I didn't read anything into that.
Yeah, obviously. But also, let me ask you a question slightly off topic, but not really, since all politics is local. On this show and elsewhere, and in writings of various people, including myself, we're very concerned with the fact that the Nashville shootings at the Coventry School have never really been explained technically, scientifically. Do you think this will lead to any more openness on this?
I mean, I think the change in administrations might. It seems like that could prompt additional release of information, and there may be some role for the Civil Rights Division in that. I don't know enough facts about it to say for sure. But one of the side effects of these treatments is cognitive impairment for kids growing up. And I think it's really important to recognize that sort of the blithe, you're just hitting pause on puberty for a while. The treatment of these as inconsequential decisions just isn't borne out by the evidence.
It certainly isn't. General Scrimetti, it's been a very busy press whirlwind for you. We're delighted to have you back in our studio sometime soon, but thank you for so ably representing the state of Tennessee with yourself and with Solicitor General Matt Rice in this case. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, too.
Thank you. It's great talking to you again.
All right. Attorney General Jonathan Scrimetti, a great guy and a great Attorney General.
Indeed.
We'll be back with more after this. We've got a breaking story about the Daniel Perry case.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall & Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. All-Star panelist Roger Simon in studio. Roger, we have breaking news. Broke about 5 minutes ago from the NBC affiliate in New York City. A jury has sent a note saying it cannot reach a unanimous decision on the manslaughter charge in the trial of Daniel Perry, the former Marine accused of killing Subway performer. Crazy man. Yeah, that was NBC saying Subway performer Jordan Neely with the chokehold in May 20.
NBC is incorrigible. Anybody who still believes a word they say, thank God most people don't.
I said I just got that clip. I wanted to read it, but I thought, should I use NBC? Obviously not.
Yeah.
But okay, I did. So here's the rest from the NBC. The development came as deliberations switched into a fourth day Friday. The jury is not permitted to consider the second count, criminally negligent homicide, until it reached a unanimous decision on the manslaughter count. It was not immediately clear if the judge would send the jury back to try again to decide on the manslaughter charge. What do you make of this, Roger Simon?
I make of it an improvement in the public mood. I mean, in the Trump era, people are beginning to wake up.
Even people who live in Manhattan.
And I grew up in Manhattan, but I woke up a while ago. I left it, but still, it's a great place in a lot of ways. And look, I think that the public is now beginning to realize that the word liberal has been misappropriated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest error of our times. Liberals are not liberal; they're almost fascistic.
Well,
they're
I was listening
diluted.
I was listening to Ben Shapiro late last night, and Ben said there are no classic liberals left in the Democratic Party. They've all become authoritarian leftists. I think that's a good way to look at it.
It's the way I look at it.
Because you're a classic liberal.
Yeah, of course I am.
And the concept of liberalism was really individual liberty. It was a 19th century concept, and it became part of American
it was the basic idea of America a lot.
Yeah.
And so, it's stolen by propagandists, essentially.
Exactly.
And this is an example of the people waking up. Let's hope the judge has the has the sense to call a halt to this fiasco.
So I think what might happen is this is in mistrial territory. If the jury can't come to a decision, then the judge can declare a mistrial.
Right.
And when that happens, then the prosecuting attorneys, then they have to decide if they're going to retry him.
Yes, and unfortunately, the prosecuting attorney running in New York is a kind of evil leftist idiot.
So Talbot Bragg, and then the woman who's doing the prosecution is a far leftist. She also did not. There was another instance of a homeless guy who killed an 86-year-old man while committing a felony crime of trying to rob him. That's in legal terms, that's called felony murder. If somebody dies while you're committing a felony, it's the same as first-degree murder.
Yeah.
And she let the guy off the hook.
Yes. I mean, the whole legal system in New York is really upside down. I mean, if you just roll back to the Trump case when Trump was.
Which Trump case?
The one where the loan case, which is the most amazing one.
Yeah.
Because he had repaid the loan, and they were accusing him of falsifying papers on a loan he already repaid. I mean, that has never been done before. No one has ever been tried for that. It just shows you how biased. Bias is not even the word. I mean. Bias is a sort of a neat term where it's much worse. It's just evil.
Yeah. So I think right now, back to this point of these charges were brought when? Back in July? A long time ago.
Yeah. Well, right. I can't.
And at the time they were brought, Alvin Bragg thought, well, we're going to convict Trump of stuff. We're going to put him in prison. And he won't be reelected, and Joe Biden will be reelected, or Kamala Harris will be elected. That didn't happen. No. And now, if you look at it, I think Alvin Bragg is the hunter, the DA there, Alvin Bragg, is about to become hunted. Can you imagine what Kash Patel's going to do?
I hope he does.
On day one. They're going to go after him for unlawful prosecution and obstruction of justice on a number of things, including this case.
Yes.
I think.
The interesting thing about this case is that it restrains people from being good Samaritans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're on the subway. Imagine the situation. This absolutely crazy guy is threatening to kill everybody. You would be grateful if there was some ex-Marine like this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I am an octogenarian now at this point. I mean, I like to think I'm in good shape for myself.
But
you don't look a day over. I can't say I'll take the guy out in tennis. I might win. On the other hand, I know that I'm not, ready to deal with these people in fisticuffs. And I'd be grateful for a human being like that if I were riding the subway. And I would bet you the majority of the people, in fact, they were, because they were all questioned.
I think
to be grateful for something, for a human being like this to put himself at risk.
I think we're probably headed towards a mistrial. And I think the politics are going to come to the point where they won't retry him.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Roger, thanks so much for joining us today. A lively day.
A lively day as always.
All right. Crime Carmichael up next. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Back after this.